Hello, Iris J here with Madrona's Pulse Teaching, Astrology for Healings, and I am here with a weekly Astro Chat, and we are talking about Pluto in Aquarius through the houses. Okay, so just to recap, there's a video link down below for Pluto in Aquarius. When I'm making this, Pluto just entered Aquarius yesterday, so on the 23rd from Capricorn. And this is energy that is a major shift in humanity, for us as individuals, for us as the collective. All in all, this is energy that we're working with for the next 20 years. Pluto moves really slowly. If you like, I'll talk very briefly about the themes of Pluto in Aquarius, and then we're going to look at how this energy is really manifesting in the houses. So you want to look at your chart and see where you have Aquarius. And this could be in the same house that Pluto was in. It also depends on the house system that you use. It could be in the same house, but if it's in the same house, the energy is shifting quite significantly. It could be an entirely new house for you. It could also be at an angle, meaning that it's coming into a new area of the psyche for you. And so it's a good idea to look at your chart, get a sense of where Aquarius is, and then if you're still kind of new and learning astrology, then you'll match it up to. You can look down below for the timestamp, so you can listening to Aquarius through all the houses. If you're wanting to learn astrology, is a great way of learning the energy of the different houses. Astrology is learning to interpret in terms of layering and merging and diverging. It's a constantly moving energy picture. This is why kind of like whether it's AI generated or just the online programs and apps that give you kind of a snapshot of, say, Mars in Aquarius or something like that. They're great for learning the touchstones of the archetypes. They're great for learning core identification of energies, but they're not a practice of astrology. A practice of astrology, just like watching a painter merge colors at once and blend, and it's an interpretive art form that really has to be embodied and intuited to a certain degree. And yes, there's the scientific approach as well, but it's important to learn when we talk about astrology that astrology is a practice that was around long before our enlightenment in human history separated the arts and science and humanities. So when we bring these kind of divisions to, is astrology science or is it an art form? These are very modern questions, and they're interesting, but they're not really getting to the core of what astrology is, which is a holistic integrative practice. All of that to say, it's great to go through the houses with Aquarius and just keep learning different archetypes as we do that. So Aquarius, Pluto in Aquarius. So important dates as well as you think about this, because Pluto has just come into Aquarius. It's going to dip in until June. Then Pluto goes retrograde, so it's going to go back into Capricorn. So this is especially important if you had points at those final degrees, like 27, 28, but especially 28 and 29 degrees of Capricorn. Your journey with Pluto and those points is not done. Or if you had a square like 29 degrees Cancer or Aries or Libra, your journey is not done, but you most likely are during the next until June, the next few months, going to feel a type of release. If you have something at 1 degree Aquarius, then you're just feeling that conjunction. But it's when Pluto comes back into Capricorn, it's a finishing up. It's a cleaning up. It's not going to have, for those of you with, and myself as well, because I have a conjunction there at the 29th degree, it's not going to feel as intense, hopefully, if we've been doing our work. And then in January 2024, Pluto goes back into Aquarius, okay? And then let's look at my dates, until September 2024. Then it's just a little dip back into Capricorn, really working with that 29th degree. And then coming back in November 2024, we're on our way with Pluto and Aquarius. But the energy has started, okay? I know that I certainly felt the shifts. It's nice to pay attention to your dreams as well as these shifts are happening and what's going on there, and just getting information. So why it's important to do this and have kind of Pluto through the houses is because it helps us to be aware of what's coming up, especially as this transit is just beginning. What's coming up? Aquarius energy can work through visions. It can work through insights. Aquarius is higher mind energy. So especially as Pluto is just coming in here for you in your house, and we're really talking about Pluto on the individual layer right now in terms of the houses. This is a transit that absolutely is about the collective on various levels, and it's about our role and our impact and the way that we're impacted by the collective shifts. So knowing what's going on for you individually is important, and we can start paying attention to that. So Pluto in Aquarius is, this is a transformation to awaken. Okay, that would be my tagline there. Okay, a transformations that awaken us. And so how does that awakening happen? Part of it is learning, transforming, breaking down whatever in our ego keeps us from entering and receiving our higher mind, our higher self. This is the energy of Aquarius, okay? It is high air energy. It is visionary. It is evolutionary. The drive of Aquarius is to evolve the collective for higher embodiments of justice, okay? Yes, Aquarius rules technology, but a lot of people, it's just like, okay, technology, it's using technology in a very particular way, right? If we're using technology and we're actually becoming numbed out by it, or we're just doom scrolling and we're actually perpetuating cycles of injustice in big and small ways, that's Aquarius shadow, okay? And I'll probably do a video just on Aquarius shadow and Pluto. Oh, here's Nikita saying hi. I just saw the golden eye coming across the screen. So it's always Aquarius is this drive to evolve, to form the collective, to create more justice-minded communities, to create balance and equality, and to keep evolving. Okay, Aquarius does keep evolving because Aquarius breaks through the status quo. Aquarius breaks through the mainstream that is a status quo that isn't bringing equality for all. Aquarius sees kind of slogans or whatever words we use, like virtue signaling, or and it sees through that, and Pluto there breaks it up because it's not actually changing and evolving our way of life. And Pluto will transform our way of life. It's been breaking a lot down in Capricorn, things and structures that were keeping us from evolving. And now it's kind of like, as that continues to break down over the next 2 years, because Pluto is not done in Capricorn, it will be using these Aquarius energies to start hopefully transforming and evolving from within that rubble. And those of us who think about the ways that humanity can evolve so that we can have more justice and we can have more equality, and that we can change our economic system so that it's actually supporting the flow of all and not actually keeping a few people in power and certain geographical locations in power. These are things we've been working with, and we're probably going to really love this energy, right? But it is a change, okay? And how is this entering into us on the individual level? So I'm going to go through the houses and just talk about general themes that might be coming up for you, okay? And again, just paying attention to what comes up over the next few months. Really, it's a great idea to be journaling over the next few months, because then you have kind of a text that's come from you, especially if you get into a practice of free form journaling, just expressing. This is a way to get in touch with our intuitive sense and get out of this egoic mind. Aquarius is air energy, but it's not the egoic mind. It's not the ego. It's not for holding a power. It's breaking through that to stream and channel higher mind, which is connected to source. So if you have Aquarius in your first house, this is all about your identity. Okay, so working with transformation of your identity. Again, this could be new if Pluto's just coming into your first house, or you could have already been working on transforming your identity in Capricorn ways, but now you are transforming it in Aquarian ways, okay? This is about your individuality. This is about your individuality as, you know, think about it as that archetype of the rebellious genius. That's the archetype of Aquarius. We all love to hear that, right? Because we all have a rebellious genius in us somewhere. Maybe we've repressed him, her, or them, but they're here, okay? Maybe we are very attached to that idea and we actually need to be a little less attached so that it can just do its thing. But identity here is being transformed in a way that aligns your individual life with the collective, whether that is your small community, depending upon where you live. If you live in a city, maybe it's the communities you move through in your city. Maybe you have work that goes out through the internet, out into the world, and you have a larger network community. But whatever happens in that community, it's because of what's going on with you. So very important to pay attention to the messages that are streaming in, to the impulses that are streaming in about how you want to express your identity. How can your identity become even more authentic? And again, these are big questions. There's most likely aspects of your identity that you haven't even fully tuned into. Okay, part of Pluto is making that which is unconscious conscious in the Aquarius realms in your identity. So maybe you find you have more interest in things like astrology. Maybe that needs to be embodied more. Maybe you have more justice driving that needs to be embodied more. Maybe you want to wave your flag of I am not of the mainstream and this is me. And that flag gets waved and it gets embodied. Okay, so really working with your individuality and seeing what wants to transform. If you have Aquarius in the second house, Pluto is either moving forward in your house of resources or you're getting new energy with your house of resources. Either way, this is about the transformations in the Aquarian ways of the house of resources. So the second house, you know, we call it the house of resources. It's actually not a simple house to understand. In pop astrology, it's usually just like your finances. So that's part of it. Money's important. You know, if we just stick with that, most likely how you make money might want to transform. What you do with your money might want to transform. How you spend your money, how you invest your money wants to be in an Aquarian way. And this is money that comes from your own work, okay? This is not money from a partner. This is not money from an inheritance. That's in other places of the zodiac. This is money that really comes from your work. So right there, that might be a theme that comes up for you. The second house is also about much more than money. It's about the resources and the structures that we use to build our life upon, okay? It's what you value. So really the core, right? If we spend our money differently, it's because our values change. If we make our money differently, it's because our values change. So this is a transformation of your values and how those values are what you build your life on. It's also your resources of your intelligence, your resources of your emotions, your body as a resource, your connections as a resource, okay? So if you have Aquarius in your second house, your connections to community, maybe how you use the internet, you know, these are resources for you that want to be transformed because it's all about your values coming into this relationship with higher self, coming into this relationship with a sense of individuality that connects to the collective. Okay, so really paying attention. Do you get insights about different ways you want to live your life? Do you get insights? Are you getting insights or feeling this kind of churning up or this repetitive thought pattern, especially because we're an air energy, around different ways that you want to be expressing your values in this world. Pay attention to it, because that's getting transformed. If you have Aquarius in the third house, house of communication, house of smaller communities, Pluto moving through Aquarius in this house, absolutely transformations of how you communicate. You know, you have third house energy that is air. This is Aquarius. And so how you form your ideas could be communicating. What you want could be communicating, could be changing, could be transforming what you want to communicate. You could be getting insights. You know, again, this is a 20-year transit. You probably have another house coming in the distance, but right now it's about communication. It's just beginning. So paying attention. Maybe there's a book you want to write. Maybe you want to do a podcast. Maybe something is changing in the way that you have entered community. It's also the house of siblings. If you're someone that has siblings, those relationships could be important to the changes that are happening. Getting insight around those relationships, transformations could be happening in those relationships. But this is really about how you communicate, how you frame your vision of the world. Could be getting a major transformation over this next era. Okay, it's exciting. It's also a lot of potentially head energy. Also depends what else you have in the third house, but also knowing that you might need to ground yourself a bit, because you could have a very active mind, especially in the beginning as we're getting used to this energy. So doing whatever grounding practices you need. Aquarius in the fourth house, house of home and family. So Pluto coming into that house of home and family. It's also about a lot more than that. The fourth house is literally our psyche. It's our psyche as we embody it and we experience it. It's taking up residence at the root chakra of the entire chart. So Aquarius in this house with Pluto coming in, absolutely transformation, potentially of what home means to you, of what home has meant to you, of ways that you access home internally in the way that your psyche and this body is our literal home of our soul in this life. And then moving outwards from there, what home manifests for you in life, and expecting transformations here. Okay, maybe that is moving, maybe that is reassessing relationships in your family, in your home. Maybe that is just going on a journey in your psyche, and getting messages from ancestors. It's probably all of it, because Pluto is coming into that home of the psyche, and it's wanting to invite an awakening. Okay, so that's going to impact you internally in your psyche, and then that's going to ripple out, and it's going to impact whatever's going on in your literal home, and it's going to be back and forth, right? Maybe there's a transformation that happens in your home, and then that's going to impact your psyche. It's internal and external always. Pluto in the fifth house. So here we have the house of creative self-actualization, and you have Aquarius in this house, and Pluto is shifting into Aquarius in your house. So, you know, definitely expecting transformation of how you express yourself to the world, really channeling that higher self energy into creative projects, whatever creative projects means for you. Sometimes that's art, in all the forms that art takes, but sometimes it's the creativity with which you live your life. If you work with children, or if you're raising children, definitely how you approach, sorry, the camera moved, how you approach working with children, definitely going to be transformed. It's also the house of romance. So knowing that aspect of romance and relationship, you know, all of this relates, children, romance, it's all about the creative self-actualization, whether that's happening in our romantic life with other people, or whether that's happening through the energy with children. It's ultimately about our creative heart opening up. And so this is kind of like that higher self energy being channeled and coming out of the heart chakra. I cannot get the image of, if you knew, I'm an 80s child, if you knew the Care Bears and Tender Heart used to like stream that energy, Care Bear energy out of his heart. You can kind of picture, or you can look it up if you've never heard of it. You can picture that Aquarian energy wanting to come out of your heart. So that's going to transform you and how you're seen in this world. And that energy does usually want to be seen in the world, not in an egoic way. Okay, this aligns, the fifth house aligns with Leo. This is not celebrity wanting to parade down the red carpet. I want to be seen in this way. That is really Leo in its shadow. We can talk about that for a long time. This energy is pouring out of me, and it wants to bring love energy to others around me and be seen and felt, so that it is part of awakening, Aquarius fifth house, others doing that as well. Okay, so it's really a very creative energy. It also could be quite a bit of energy streaming through you, so you want to do some grounding, especially as the shifting is happening and we're just learning about these energies. Aquarius in your sixth house, house of daily life. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee. So, you know, transforming to awaken in your daily life, your daily habits. This is also the house of health, because how we live our life daily contributes greatly, ultimately, to the health, our long-term health. So Aquarius energy in your sixth house, it's also really inviting the connection of mind and body. Okay, so if you have Aquarius in your sixth house, I would absolutely recommend, if you don't have a meditation practice, starting to work with a meditation practice. This is a lot of energy that wants to be channeled in your daily life. It wants the mind and the body to connect. That could be a kind of traditional mindfulness practice. There's many other ways to work with meditation. You can take up an instrument and make learning that instrument your meditative practice, but it's definitely energy that wants to be focused, okay? Because your daily life will be transforming. And again, in a way that is allowing your individual essence to emerge in a new way, so that how you show up in the collective being small community, the collective being the world, you know, this word collective means a lot of layers of community, but this is about how you show up in your everyday life, how you live your everyday life. Work might change during this time. You know, it might be that you desire work that is more aligned with these Aquarian themes of awakening, of collective humanitarian goods. You know, the internet for sure might become part of your work in a different way. And if you already have these themes in your life, then it's just getting upgraded, which means things need to break down somehow so that this energy can stream through you more fully. If you have Aquarius in the seventh house, this is the house of one-on-one relationships, okay? And this is all one-on-one relationships. So this is, yes, our partners, you know, if we're in a long-term committed relationship, if we're just dating someone, it's that person. It's if you work with clients, definitely if you have one-on-one relationships in your client work. It is any colleagues at work. It's just the sphere of one-on-one relationships, knowing that this energy of Aquarius wants to stream in you through a relational way, okay? So somehow the work that you do in your relationships, whether that is literal work that brings in an income, or it's the work of loving another human being, because that is work, that wants to be something in which this awakening self manifests, in which that comes out into the world, but in which you awaken through that. So this is energy to be mindful of, because it's not just you, it's you in relationship with others, but you're awakening, okay? So it like, the essence of the seventh house in the Libra archetype is that through relationship, we become aware of ourselves in a new way. And so you are embarking on a journey, even if you had Capricorn in part of your seventh house. Now that seventh house energy wants to be about how Aquarius energy comes through you and your relationships. And it also could be taking your relationships to the next level, right? And if those relationships aren't serving this evolution, this awakening, they might fall apart. They might, right? Pluto transforms things, and sometimes the form is that death process, and sometimes it's the death process to regenerate. You might go through kind of a death and a rebirth in your relationship, knowing if that happens, because these are one-on-one relationships, and that can be quite sensitive and very meaningful part of our life, knowing that whatever transformation's happening is for a greater awakening, keeping that in mind. If you have Aquarius in the 8th house, so Pluto journeying through your 8th house, this is the house of deep, deep merging, deep, deep intimacy. This takes our one-on-one relationships, this is to the next level, especially in terms of committed partnerships, or if you're married. It is the house where we experience our own experience of death and rebirth. It is also the house of mental health and the occult. It's everything that's under the surface, okay? And knowing that the essence of the 8th house is where we merge fully with either another being or an idea system, whether that's spirituality, could be astrology, or the occult. And we kind of lose ourselves in it so that we can emerge changed and transformed. This is a house of transformation. So you've got Pluto in your house of transformation, where Pluto is all about transformation with Aquarius. So Pluto transiting through your 8th house can have a bit of an intensity, knowing that that intensity is part of your evolutionary imperative in this life. And so it's about awakening, right? So it's also the house of shared finances. That's like the first place that pop astrology goes. Always pop astrology goes to money. The money comes out because of our connections and our intimacy. But knowing that all of this is being transformed, okay? So and that your deep relationships, your merging, your shared finances, it wants to be transformed in a way that is about awakening, that is a way about you joining the collective in a new way. If you are in a committed relationship, the intimacy between you and your partner or partners definitely wants to evolve. It wants to transform. It wants higher self to come and kind of emerge in that liminality that is deep intimacy. If you work in mental health at all, or emotional wellness, and you have clients, this is another place that energy is certainly going to come up in terms of the Aquarian energy wanting to come through, both in working deeply with others. It transforms us both, right? Whether you're a psychotherapist or a life coach or an astrologer, when you go into that liminal space with another person, your client's transformed, but if we're doing our job, we're transformed as well. And this Aquarian energy is wanting to transform both. And it's looking at that practice that you have as something that is potentially doing this, but you're not doing this. This isn't your ego doing this. This is higher self doing this work. There could be quite a bit of intensity. If you have, like, Pluto in the 8th house is just intensity when it's going through. Knowing that whatever transformations you encounter, you could get an inheritance, like that type of situation could happen as well. But again, it's for higher self to come through, okay? Pluto in the 9th house, house of wanting to understand why we're here and how it all works, whether this happens through higher education or through travel or through publishing and writing. It's the house of deeply inspired learning, and learning happens in so many ways. And so there could just be a lot of energy to learn. You could find a teacher in yourself, but especially as this is beginning, like this is a long transit. You have Pluto in your 9th house. You might be drawn to work with teachers. You might be drawn to travel. You might be drawn to get a new degree, to go back to school. I'd suggest that you follow those impulses. They are wanting to let this education come through the learning spirit. Aquarius learning spirit is very strong, knowing that this is also about deep intuition work for you. So whether you're doing this learning through working with someone that's an elder for you, working through a formal education practice, through traveling to other cultures, combining all of that, Maybe you move to go to a program. It's about the learning, but it's about your intuition kind of being, you know, it's a fire house, and then you have this air energy. So that's a lot of, you know, stoking the fire potentially. So there could be a lot of energy. You just want to follow it and let higher self come through in that awakening practice of learning. At some point, you're probably going to want to communicate that. You might want to write. You might want to teach yourself. If you already teach, then your teacher self is getting an upgrade. And first stuff has to break down for that upgrade to come through. Just keep that in mind. And maybe you do need to learn another skill to enhance your teaching practice, whatever that means to you. Okay. Pluto in the 10th house, your house of how you move through this world in a public way, your house of how you are seen, traditionally the house of career. Career is kind of an interesting word these days. I tend to move away from the word career, just because career now doesn't mean what it meant in the 50s. It doesn't mean what it meant in the 80s. It doesn't mean what it meant 20 years ago. It's really the house. It's also a word that is steeped in a patriarchal culture. Aquarius wants to transform that patriarchal culture. So if you have Pluto in your 10th house, like there's a transformation about how you're seen in the world and the work that you're doing in the world for sure. This is about a higher self coming through and how you walk through the world and how your reputation is in this world. You know, reputation's a tricky word. Some people really don't like that word because it sounds egoic, but it's part of ourself. It's our personality and who we are out there in the world, whether you have a career or you have work. You know, it's different than who we are when we're on the couch with our child or on the couch with our partner, you know, like it's a different form of the self, and that self is getting Aquarius energy, wanting to transform it. So most likely the work you do is going to go through a transformation. Really paying attention in the next little while, these next few months of our first tastes of Pluto and Aquarius, of what's coming up for you. Are you wanting to change careers? Are you wanting to change work? Are you wanting to shift your work? It doesn't mean that you need to leave. It means that the way that you hold yourself is going to change. Getting on board with that is probably going to help any tension, because something wants to change in the way that you manifest work out in the world, okay? Again, knowing that whatever's transforming is about justice making, is about your individuality shining forth. Maybe you need to stop going with the status quo where you are. Potentially, rather than changing and allowing yourself, if you can, to embody who you are there, wherever you work, that's going to change culture. And that's what Aquarius is also asking us to do, okay? Because Pluto has broken shit down. Aquarius wants us to embody the higher authentic self where we are. And if the work isn't happening, then you got to go find your tribe, okay? Okay, Aquarius, if you have Pluto moving in through or continuing on through your 11th house, this is the home of Aquarius. So this is very Aquarian energy coming to you, a very high upgrade coming into you. This is your greater networks, okay? Whether that's networks through the people that you know, friendships that you know, colleagues that you know, creating this kind of interconnected web. It's also literally the interconnected web that we have through our digital connections, digital relationships. It's also the house of your own dreams, the dreams that you imagine for yourself in this life, in this world, in this carnation. And Aquarius is here now with Pluto, transforming those dreams, transforming your networks. If you are someone that uses the internet, your work is probably going to transform a bit. It's probably going to go to a higher level. That doesn't necessarily mean more work, or, you know, it could mean that, but it means that it wants to be used in a different way, in a way that's more aligned with the collective, that's more aligned with creating justice, that's more aligned with integrating your authentic self with the collective. Maybe you start you're probably going to form new groups of connections. Absolutely, that's going to happen during this time. But I think especially as you're just dipping your toes into this Pluto and Aquarius energy in your 11th house, pay attention to your dreams, pay attention to the visions that come, pay attention to what messages you receive. This is big energy about how you can form your life. Enjoy it. Let things break down that need to break down, because this is about your higher self becoming embodied in your dreams that you manifest in your life. Final house, those of you that have Aquarius in your 12th house, Pluto coming in or moving further into your 12th house. 12th house, house of deeply lived spirituality, house of dissolving the boundaries between self and the goddess, self and the divine mystery, house of everything that is beyond the day-to-day, okay? Beyond the structures of the known. If you have Aquarius in your 12th house and you have Pluto moving through that, your psyche is being transformed on a very deep, intuitive level. This is a lot of energy to have channeling through you. You definitely want to meditate. If you have an art practice, you want to use that. There are going to be messages coming through. This could be happening in the dream world. This could be happening through, giving yourself to creative practices like writing or journaling or painting or dancing, whatever works for you. This is, if you're watching my channel, then most likely spirituality is important for you, or you're deepening your experience with spirituality. Some people are going to talk about the 12th house in a different way. They're really coming at it from less of a spiritual framework and orientation. The 12th house is ultimately our spirituality, but it's our spirituality in a way that is not always easy, because this is the dissolving of the self. Okay, and you have Aquarius, who's this ruggedly individualistic self energy coming in, but this is not an ego self. This is a higher self. Okay, so I'm going to say it again, that meditation would be important, and that doesn't have to be, traditional meditation isn't for everyone, especially for someone that lives with trauma in our psyche body. Sometimes traditional meditation isn't the most helpful thing, but getting into that kind of, whatever can get you into kind of a trance state could also be really helpful. You want to let messages move through you in the 12th house. You might need a lot of time alone with this transit. If you have, if you've already had Pluto and Capricorn through your 12th house, then you've been already having some breakdowns of this kind of psyche related to source energy. But Aquarius is going to take it to this air level. It's a new paradigm. This is a new paradigm for you, and you kind of just have to go with it. Okay, so definitely taking care. It could be a lot of energy that you're feeling. If you're someone that does do work kind of in the outer bounds of reality, traditional astrology reads this as mental health work, as folks that don't fit into the mold of what is an ableist patriarchal culture. Knowing that being in those outskirts, it's sometimes the prison system, being in those outskirts, if you do work outside of kind of the mold of the day-to-day mainstream, knowing that work is actually part of creating justice and creating equality in this world, and that you're just being taken to a higher level. If you don't do work there, then it's more about your spirituality and the way that you're bringing that to the world in some way, and that will become clearer way down the road. So you just want to pay attention to what's coming up in your spiritual journey. Whew, and that brings us to the end of our brief journey of Pluto through the houses in Aquarius with this transformation, and I am going to leave it there. Take care.